I'm going to need to shake up some people by some of the topics I want to deep dive into. I don't want to just sit here and have a blah, blah, blah conversation about a topic that is so important. In this topic, it is about humans being accountable for their past and what they teach to young children. I mean, young children, like from the minute you're born, the ideas that you get imprinted with, right? They are supporting in helping you create a life, right? And we know that there are still so many people all over the world that are suffering. Hello, beautiful. I'm so thrilled and excited to have you here. I want to talk to you about one of my most favorite topics because it was very relevant to me because of my story and my past and where I come from. And that is creating a life you love. For me, this is one of the most important things as a human being. You can set an intention for and go about achieving and accomplishing. It is so, I wouldn't say easy because it's not easy. It's so important to have the right tools and the right understanding so that you can live a life every single day that's in harmony with your greatest wishes, with your true desires, with being able to get all of your potential and greatness out and to accomplish, to feel accomplished and to feel directional, that you're walking in a specific direction. There was a time in my life where that wasn't the case. I was literally circling round and round in circles. I felt lost and confused, and I really didn't know what I could do to get out of the mess that was my life. Obviously, that's many years ago because some of you may know my story that I've been on this personal growth journey for 30 years. Yeah, I started with 23 where I had my awakening. I call it an awakening because it was a completely new experience in a meditation that took me out of my sleepiness and got me to understand the potential that I had inside of me. After that first experience, I decided to go all in and learn everything I could about consciousness and developing myself, my thoughts, my feelings, my ability to be centered and grounded and clear, and all of those juicy things. So I went on this tremendous journey that has led me to this day, 53 years old. And honestly, sometimes I just feel like I'm just beginning. Yeah, just beginning. And I think that anyone who understands potential will understand what I mean by that. The greatest potential we have is the stuff we still haven't done, still haven't figured out, the stuff that we still want to express. And it's great to have great accomplishments, but life needs to continue growing. For me, creating a life you love is about having life continue to surprise you, having yourself continue to surprise you because you're continuously learning, you're continuously expanding, you're continuously growing. Things may be getting easier because you're learning more how to make it easier. Things may become more abundant because you're learning how to accept and say yes to more abundance. Abundance is important in a life that you love, and creating that abundance with ease, lightness, playfulness, love, joy. These are important things. So that is what I want to be deep diving with you today. The importance of creating a life that we love to live. and some of the things I've learned about how to actually start to get that happening. I want to just talk about why I want to do this podcast in the first place. I feel that there's a lot of things that I want to share with you guys listening here today, and with anybody who maybe won't hear this today, but might hear it in whatever, 5, 6, 7, 8 years time, or whenever they might find this podcast. But I want to talk about human potential development. That's what I want this podcast to be about. How can we as humans raise our game that we're playing in the world? How can we become more gentle with ourselves, more still, more intelligent, emotionally intelligent, more childlike and playful, more powerful, grounded, and centered? How can we operate as the best versions of ourselves and not being perfect, still being human, still being with all of our trips and all of our humanness, right? How can we still embrace our divine essence, our powerful beauty and light? How can we still operate in the world with ease, lightness, and laughter, peace, and all the beauty that each human deserves to have? So that is really one of my favorite topics. But in order to tackle this topic in the most let's say in the way that it's going to be most impactful, I'm going to need to push some buttons. Yes, I am. I'm going to need to shake up some people. Maybe you'll get shook up by some of the questions I want to pose, by some of the topics I want to deep dive into. I don't want to just sit here and have a blah, blah, blah conversation about a topic that is so important. But in this topic, it is about humans being accountable for their past and what they teach to young children. I mean, young children, like from the minute you're born, the ideas that you get imprinted with, right? They are supporting in helping you create a life, right? And we know that there are still so many people all over the world that are suffering a lot because of cultural and societal beliefs and values, about some of the religious concepts and ideas that we've taken on and aren't allowed to question, about a hierarchy of people in the world, and who do we listen to and what we listen to. And most of the, let's say, powers to be, like the powerful influences and things that influence us, don't want to be questioned, right? You are considered a rebel. There's some form of negativity around not wanting to go with the status quo, right? So some of you may have read my book, which I entitled, my award-winning book, international. I'm an international bestseller with my book, A Rebel's Guide to Inner Peace. And I use the word rebel's guide because I do feel like for a human being to thrive in this world, you need to rebel against some of the imprints that you have just taken on. Like, yeah, that's the way we do things. This is the way our culture operates, right? So as a Zimbabwean, this is what we do. These are our cultures. I'm Zimbabwean, by the way. That's why I'm taking that as an example. So in order to create the life that I love living, I've had to question everything that I have been taught that is right and that is wrong. And as obvious as it may seem, that, of course, my mother and would have wanted me to learn what's right and what's wrong, but she learned that based on the brainwashing of an apartheid culture. So let's just think about that for a second, right? So in Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe had apartheid, right? And so my mom was brought up in that culture. So her belief systems are are tainted, are influenced by what was believed at the time to be the way you behaved if the color of your skin was this way, or the way you should be taught how to do things if the color of your skin was that way. So just that basic influence, that distinction of being a young girl, being brought up, in my opinion, with some very polluted ideas about what's right and wrong, what you should or shouldn't be doing, right? So, as a person who wants to raise your consciousness and create a life that you absolutely love, you need to be willing, in my humble opinion, to become some form of activist, to think differently and question everything you've been taught. And as I said, being a good girl, for example, I come from the Roman Catholic Church, right? That was my upbringing as a child. And it was very important to be a good girl. And it was often thrown in our faces, right? You better be a good girl. And what does that mean sexually? What does that mean spiritually? What does that mean just in how you behave in the society, right? As a child, I always had a fierce attitude, so they told me. So I would already start questioning things back then. I wasn't the quiet child where, everyone could just count on to take the discipline that she was given and just be like, okay, right? Apparently, I was the kid that would question, right? So an adult would tell me something and I'd be like, why? Why? Yeah. And let's say they would say, well, because I said so. And then I'd say, yeah, but you're doing it. I would point out the hypocrisy, for example, like, yeah, but you doing that thing. And so those are the type of things I'm talking about, that I want to talk about on this podcast. I want us to go deep. I want us to go deep into understanding our cultural upbringing, our religious backgrounds, our societal beliefs, the school books, what they taught us in the school books that's affecting us from being able to actually live our potential. So, on that point, let me just point out something. If you want to create a life that you absolutely love to live, you need to elevate your thinking. I wasn't taught how to elevate my thinking. Yeah, I wasn't. I don't know many kids that are actually taught how to elevate their thinking, how to elevate their emotions, and how to align their thinking and emotions with their actions, right? So, what I was taught was mind knowledge, right? So, that was all about getting into my head, okay, and learning information that I could store in my head, and then I could be tested, with tests, how much of that information is stored inside of my head, right? So if you have that kind of intelligence, right, the kind of memory intelligence where you remember all that stuff and you're very good at reading and books and all of this stuff, then that type of schooling is going to be amazing for you, right? But there is so much wisdom that isn't about holding information inside of your head. Okay. There are some kids that have incredible access to different type of intelligences. So just to give you a few ideas, right? So you could have intelligence of the body. That means that you can do things with your body, extraordinary things. It could be dance, it could be sports, it could be some form of acrobatics, some daredevil stuff, jumping, off cliffs or walking in ice coldy mountains and climbing all the mountains in the world, and all kinds of incredible intelligence that isn't the mind intelligence that we are taught to revere like it's everything, right? So there is creative intelligence. That means you might have some form of musical talent that you're able to tap into and play different musical instruments or play one music instrument really, 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 really well, right? And be able to create music or create poetry or write, right? So there's other types of intelligence that have to do with creativity that, you know, again, unless you get that school mind knowledge, you might not be considered that bright if you have another type of intelligence that's more creative, right? There are people that can do like things in nature, where nature is is like it's like their thing. It's the thing that lights them up. It's the thing where they come alive and they become curious and they can learn and they can spend hours and hours and hours just exploring nature and being with nature, whether that's animals or plants or forests or whatever, ocean, and that's the world that turns them on. There are many different types of intelligences. And if you want to create a life that you absolutely love living, you need to understand where your brilliance lies. You need to take the time to figure out what makes you come alive. A lot of us, because of the background of what the society has told us, we have closed ourselves off to our true intelligence, our true wisdom, right? The things that I call that spark joy in your soul and make you feel, yes, I'm in the right place. So, one of the things that I discovered with 23 years old is that I had an insane ability to sit and meditate. Yes, I'd never meditated before that point. Yeah. And after my first meditation, I literally could sit for hours by myself, eyes closed, quiet, not a guided meditation, just listening to my breath and exploring my inner world. That is why my last 30 years have been dedicated to consciousness and growth, because of my passion for understanding humans. By understanding myself, exploring the deepest layers of my consciousness, and then understanding how to hack my consciousness to think differently, to feel differently, and therefore to act in a different way. I've overcome trauma. And I'll tell you this over the lifespan of this podcast. I'll tell you more about my story, where I've overcome sexual abuse. I've overcome limiting money mindset. I've overcome physical abuse that I experienced in my childhood. I've overcome things that normally, with this background, I shouldn't be living this life. I shouldn't be achieving the relationship that I have with my partner over 24 years of being together, my beautiful husband, Kai. I shouldn't have a successful business where I run a successful team and take this transformation around the world. I shouldn't be here. And I honestly wouldn't be here had I not had that initial, deeper awakening to the type of ideas that I want to be sharing with you guys on this podcast over the next couple of years and so forth. So, yes, let's come back to that core idea. How to create a life that you absolutely love to live. You need to be doing things that you love doing. When people join me on transformational journeys, those are the type of questions we start posing, right? The work you're doing, do you feel that it is it is lifting you? Do you feel that your potential, your genius, your spark can be used, that you can use this work as a vessel through which to explore yourself and your potential and your power and your brilliance and your beauty in the world. Because if you look at the people that have achieved what we call like epic success, they've had the gift or the choice or the decided to do it or however it happened, they've been put on the path of their real intelligence. Yeah, they are doing things that they truly love. Yes, it's difficult. It's difficult on any path. So I'm not saying that when you choose the path of your dreams, it's just going to be rosy-toesy dancing and singing, in the wind or something, right? Like, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying life is already challenging. Why challenge it further by doing things that don't light you up? But does it take courage? Because let's say you've been on a path that doesn't light you up. You're listening to this right now going, well, Mahima, I'm not on my path that lights me up, but I'm 35 years old. I'm 40 years old. I'm 50 years old. Well, here's the good news. It doesn't matter how old you are. It is never too late to pivot. Yeah, to pivot. And I know because I've helped so many people do that. I've helped so many people take new direction, the direction guided by their soul, by their spirit, by what they truly love. Yeah, I've helped people say, no, I'm done with this. This is making me sick. This is making me depressed. This gives me nothing. I can no longer be a part of this. This work doesn't light me up, right? So yes, it takes courage, but courage isn't the only thing you need. You need strategies. You need techniques. You need to follow a system of transformation. The transformation that we're all looking for is inside before it can show outside. You need to have the inner shift, right? So before anything in your external life is going to change, let's say you're like, no, I don't want to do this work anymore. You need to have an internal shift, a belief that you are worthy and you deserve better, and that you're ready to do whatever it's going to take for you to get onto that path, because your life is valuable. It's your precious life and you're worth it, right? So we need to get those internal shifts happening. Now, let's say we're back to that whole society thing, and everyone around you is like, no, 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 you should be so lucky. You should be so lucky you have this job. You shouldn't be, trying to change anything. You're earning good money. What's your problem? You know, suck it up. And that's usually what is going to happen when people hear these type of ideas and thoughts. Because unless you're surrounded with people that are truly living at their greatest potential, they're going to tell you based on their world. So if they've just sucked it up and had an okay job, like my mother did, for example, or many of the people that I know in my life who haven't had any altering shifts in their inner perspective, so they weren't able to create external change, right? So that's what you're going to hear. You're going to hear exactly what you want to hear, which is don't do anything. Just, keep going and it's fine. Well, I'm here to say no. No, 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 no. It's not fine, okay? It's not fine. And it's not as difficult as you think to pivot and to create a life you love living. It isn't. I wish I'd known this sooner than 23, but I'm glad that when I did hear this information with 23, that I grabbed everything and hugged it and said, yes, 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 yes. These are the ideas that I want to be having planted in my mind. These are the feelings that I want to be feeling, because I started with meditation as my as the thing that I figured out I have a gift to do, right? While many people struggle with sitting quietly, while many people struggle to still their mind or to feel like they could expand their consciousness and just be in that stillness, it came easily to me. It came effortless. And I wanted more. I wanted more meditation. I started meditating, guys, 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. Yeah. I know it's hard to believe. And I did that for about a 5-year period because I spent 5 years in India. I was young. I had the finances. I could invest in myself. And I chose to clean up my inner world. And I didn't clean it all up in 5 years. I'm still working on it. Okay. But I got the fundamentals. I got the fundamentals, the foundation, yeah, to be able to create abundance financially, right? Abundance in relationships, abundance in what I get to do every single day. I can say with all of the love inside of me that I have had an extraordinary life since I started my journey of inner development. I discovered that I had superpowers that I didn't know I had. And what I mean by that is that what I think creates, what I feel moves my actions. So once I understood this and I could be intentional in my thinking, intentional in my emotional vibration, I started to feel like I was a magician. I could create things that were mind blowing. For example, I created a lifestyle where I was traveling around the world teaching people meditation, and people were inviting me. They were organizing all the events, and all I had to do was just show up and shine. And I got invited all over Europe. I got invited in Italy, in France, in Netherlands, Germany, Switzerland, and okay. And these are early days after, I'd been in this process of self-development. So for me, being from Africa, not even able to have the possibility of traveling, being able to go all over Europe. And by the way, I was in America, I was in Canada, and do what I loved, which is literally just be in stillness, in silence, in love, and earn money through that and have people honoring what they were feeling and experiencing through the teachings, through the work I was doing. I couldn't have even imagined something like this before I went on my path of personal growth. Not only have I been able to create this in my life, I've been able to help others to create what they love in their lives as well. So I know that to create a life you love to live, you need to go inside. You need to question what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and your belief systems. You need to be willing to look at yourself in a totally new way of self-discovery. And I'm going to share more about all of this during my time on this podcast. So I will try to bring you every single week beautiful ideas to expand your consciousness, to open your heart, and to start living your full potential. So I want to end this podcast with encouraging you to really and truly own one idea. You are a co-creator in your life. Your life isn't just happening at you. You are creating what's happening. Now, there are things that are in your control and there are things that are not in your control, right? So I don't think I can control whether there's going to be a thunderstorm or a sunny day, right? So some people have gone that far with their powers and their ability, and they can create rain, they feel they can create sunshine. There's no limit to what you can do. I personally feel like I don't need to have that much control. Okay. And because everything takes time to develop. Yeah. If you want to become a magician that can, create rain, you need to work on that. You need to work on that over years and years and years. And yes, you can become that proficient in your abilities that you can literally, I believe you could do anything you set your mind to, right? So in my world where I live, where I want to live in, I don't need to create rain or sun. Okay. What's important to me is to create what I want. And so tune into the next episode so we can keep talking about how you can build your ability to create. Yeah. What do you need to be thinking about? What do you need to be focused on? I tapped into some of those things during this episode, right? The importance of understanding what you've been told, what your beliefs, yeah, from your society, from your religion, from your culture, right? So in my case, African, born in Zimbabwe, Black woman, right? Level of education, XYZ. So that means A, B, C, D, right? All of those, they're all belief systems, right? More education, more money. I'm here to tell you that is not the truth. That is not the truth. You can have the best education in the world and still be super poor in debt and have a lot of financial problems, right? And you can have what is considered less education and soar and have financial abundance of epic proportions that most people wouldn't even begin to be able to know how to tap into. I've proven it. Many people have proven it. So there are just these beliefs that we have about things that we're very fixed on. So I'm going to end this episode with saying thank you for listening on the beautiful topic of creating a life you love. I've planted some seeds. There is so much I could say about this. And I will continue to share my ideas, are going to start coming to you, and you're going to discover there is so much more you can do than you've been taught. So much love, and tune in for more. I love you and can't wait to continue this beautiful journey together. Love, love, love.